Welcome to the Infinite Evolution Podcast, where you'll receive keys and codes to help you unlock your next level of joy, radiance, health, wealth, intuition, embodiment, and soul purpose. This is a space for lightworkers, healers, spiritual entrepreneurs, and anyone who wants to share their soul gifts with the world. We'll be exploring personal, spiritual, and professional growth and ascension through both the esoteric and magical and the tangible and practical. I'm Casey Aileen Knight, coach, mentor, as well as divine channel and soul gift activator. I founded the Luminous Evolution brand to help you elevate your business and beingness and light up the world. So glad you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome back. After a bit of an impromptu mid-season break, I did not intend to take a long break, but I wound up moving house, going through an intense initiation energetically, and did not have the capacity, if I'm being truly honest, to share a bunch of things on my podcast, on the internet. But I'm back. I've landed, and it feels like I'm still integrating all of the initiation energy from a deeply transformational 42nd birthday portal. My birthday was back in December, and I went off. Not me per se, but a part of my soul energy, which I guess is actually totally me. But I mean, my personality didn't leave. I was still here, but almost 50%, 48% of my soul energy went to go get some upgrades from different places and spaces around the cosmos that I've incarnated before. And I always am aware that birthday portals are opportunities to level up, to go into stillness, to upgrade, to evolve. But this one really felt different. This one felt like it was going to be quite potent and profound, but I was only partially conscious of the work I was astrally and etherically doing. So I just went through life with less energy, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what was happening. My cats got sick, and we wound up having to put one of them down. And then the other one made a freaking speed run to the afterlife after her brother. They were 14 years old, and she decided she wanted to join him. And I'll explain a little bit more about the incredible conversations that we had. But that kitty death portal cracked my heart open. And I had 9 days of grieving deeper than I ever have before, not when my grandparents or other friends have died. It was so deep that it felt like it cleared me out on this cellular level. And I probably for the first time in my life really fully allowed myself to just be in that energy. And I know one of the gifts they gave to me and to my husband, who was going through the same process, was to do a lot of cleaning and clearing. And that led into the winter solstice and then Christmas and New Year's. And I had so much more space, even though I didn't have the energy. I felt the shift happening. And just before New Year's, I was walking through my garage door, and I felt my energy completely return and say to me, "I'm back." And suddenly it was like I was recharged and I felt like myself again. And so, of course, I start tracking in and getting some answers like, oh, okay, so, oh, wow, you were gone this whole time, picking up all of these codes from different places I've incarnated and everything like that. It was quite just like potent, but I couldn't unpack everything yet. I couldn't just immediately read all the codes and all the downloads and everything. I knew there was going to be some integration time, but that integration time wound up phasing into a move that I had to do physically. I had to move houses. The place where I was, my grid work was completed. And then suddenly the landlord wanted his home back. And so we were being called to another place or space. And packing up a 5-bedroom home when you have kids is a lot more work than moving without all of that stuff that comes with it. And we had been settled there for a while. And it just took so much more energy than I expected to pack up, clean up, and land in the new place and unpack and put my roots back down. The very night, though, that I first slept in this new space, I received so many new codes and bits of information. When I'm talking about codes, it's this electromagnetic bit of information that comes with both the thoughts and the feelings, like a fully formed piece of conscious information that I can then unpack and understand, sometimes immediately and sometimes with time. So we landed, we unpacked, we got settled, and then almost immediately got new kittens. And so we have been integrating these beautiful new cats into our household. And I finally feel like I am back energetically. I'll be real with you. My business over the last 3 months was put not on hold, but I was just fulfilling my obligations, the things I had to do, the clients that were already working with me, the classes I was already in process of teaching. But in terms of growth, I could not. I could barely create content. It was this time of going into this cocoon. And I needed to be in the cocoon and allow myself to be. And fortunately, I've been there before. I've been through this rebirth process previously a couple times where I needed to let go of the idea that I should be growing and really and doing all this outreach and scaling my business and really allow myself to be present with the cycle that was unfolding and honoring the cycle, loving myself through the cycle was so important. And I did it pretty successfully this time. I did not should all over myself. I could sense what was going on. And I knew that it was going to be a short period of time. Whereas in the past, sometimes when I've been through these pockets, these cycles of introspection, of going into a cocoon and basically needing to be rebuilt and reborn, where I felt like I was never going to get back to where I was. And of course, that is the craziest take. Well, I mean, you're not going to get back to where you were, but I mean, in terms of energy, I would be like, oh no, I'm going to do nothing forever. I'm going to be a lazy bum. No, that is not the case. And also, this was such a process of rebirth, renewal, regeneration, rearranging everything, including my physical surroundings and the, family unit, because my 2 14-year-old cats had been with me for those 14 years, longer than I'd been with my daughter, at least in this lifetime. And so this has been just a really intense period. And I want to share some more insights from this time because chances are you have gone through rebirth portals like this, or you're going to in the future. And I want to give a spoiler. I didn't actually come away with much that was new besides the location, besides the kitties. What I actually received through this period was a much, much deeper level of embodiment, a clarity and confidence in the work that I'm already doing. Instead of an expansion or something new, some new focus, I have really just deepened my appreciation for the evolutionary alchemy modality that has come through me, the courses, the coaching, the creation energy, the transformational facilitation that I offer, and how potent it is and how rare it is. It's like I have these new eyes where I can really see my magic. And what I've been witnessing on this journey is that I'm actually far more qualified than many of the $1 million coaches and teachers out there. Not only through this lifetime, but many, many others, but also in this lifetime, through my 42 years of learning, growth, evolution, spending, over $200,000 on my education through coaching courses, my degree in sociocultural anthropology, and the energy and intensity through which I have studied and practiced, through the meditation that I have done for over 25, maybe 27 years, and the access that I have to the infinite that I came in with, right? My ability to magically work with all realms and dimensions and levels and layers to clear out energy and activate divine flow. All of these things I took for granted, and I didn't see the uniqueness of them. I was like, well, everybody can do this, really. Why is it a big deal? Like, I don't want to toot my own horn. And it's this new level of deep belief in myself and the work that I'm here to do that is now coming through. I'm like, wow, I have everything that I need to really support humanity right now. And it is time to scale, to expand, to bring the academy that I have with all of the courses and coaching into a much bigger space. So there has been this evolutionary energy coming through me. And there's a reason this is the Infinite Evolution podcast, because I know there's no end to the expansion. There's no end to the growth and evolution. Even death is just that next level expansion of energy. But each piece of this has given me these different keys, clues, codes for the next part of my mission. And I'll be sharing more of that with you as it feels right to. Right now, I'm working more on the back end of things and doing some planning. But I want to share a little more about my kitties. Not the new ones yet. My elder cats, Moo and Q. And how, when Q decided to follow her brother into the afterlife, she told me exactly what was happening. To back it up a bit, Moo had had kidney disease for a year and a half or so, and he'd beaten pancreatitis. He had been on blood pressure medication. He had gone blind and then rallied and then come back to a state of relative health. He was on medication. He then, declined, got hypokalemia where his potassium really dropped. And we tried to supplement it, and he was wavering between life and death. And I had told him, hey, buddy, like, you have to decide. I can tell, you're walking the borderlands right now of like death and life, and you have to decide, okay? Like, are you going to live? And this beautiful kitty with his little warrior soul was like, I'm going to live, damn it. But his body was already too far gone, and then he just wouldn't die. But myself, my husband, and my daughter all very psychically and telepathically linked to these cats. And we were like, oh, he does not want to die at the vet. He would be so pissed off if we took him to the vet to be put down. So we actually found a beautiful angel of mercy who was the best person at any job, like to be so well suited for a job or a career that I've ever met ever. I'm going to name her Serenity Vet in Edmonton, Alberta. She was so incredible. She came to help Moo pass on and leave his body, and it was the most incredible, wonderful experience. She held the exact right energy of sacredness, of compassion, letting us have moments of sadness and pockets of joy and laughter all through the experience. She was holding the most exquisitely serene space. It was beautiful. I'm so grateful. And we let Q, his sister, from his litter mate, who had been bonded with him their whole life. She'd never been apart from him, save for a couple hours when he'd gone to the vet without her. We let her smell his body so she could understand that he had passed away. And she seemed totally fine that day. We're like, oh, okay, maybe she's going to be totally okay with this. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that she wasn't. But, my human hope was holding out like, oh, she's going to be totally fine. So we went to bed that night, and when we woke up, it was like a cartoon storm cloud was hanging over our kitten And by kitten, I mean my 14-year-old cat, who was my bestie. Q was my cat. She was magical, and she held space for me in ceremony. She did so much work with me. She was just, yeah, my best buddy for a long time, except I did rupture our relationship a little bit when Charlie was born because hormonally, I actually was not interested in her for the first couple months after Charlie was born because I was obsessed with my daughter, very like evolutionary, and I felt really bad, but my love for my cat was like blocked by all of this other love I had for Charlie. It was wild, and I could not really bond with her the same way, and she felt that distance because we had been so close during my pregnancy. And then suddenly this baby comes home, and I was like colder to her. I'd still pet her, I'd still feed her, but my heart was closed off to her, and I had no control over it. It was really weird, and I felt bad, but I couldn't shift it or change it. Fortunately, my husband was, there and was giving both of the cats all the love that they needed. So that ruptured my relationship with Q, and she didn't quite ever, it took her a while to forgive me. She actually did forgive me in the end, and we got to be really close friends again. But, she was my first soul cat. And I knew she was going to die. She stopped eating, and, I knew she was going to die quite quickly. And I was sitting there crying because seeing the most depressed cat I've ever seen, again, literally like a cartoon storm cloud, is what my psychic eye could see. Everybody could see it, though. I've never seen an animal that sad before. I was sitting, holding space, doing a death vigil with her after 5 days of watching my other cat die. I was like in for this next death vigil. And we're sitting in the basement, and suddenly I saw her spirit leave her body and come and basically be in front of me. So I close my eyes and go into meditation. And then I saw her light body. And also she projected this beautiful, almost like a cartoon cat, just very elegant. And she was able to speak with me so much more clearly because it wasn't shrouded by the sadness. And she told me, hey, listen, I'm not moving with you, because we knew at this time we were going to move. She's like, I'm not going to stay. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Moo. Thank you for everything. This has been amazing. My body's not working the way it used to, and I'm ready for change, and so are you. But don't worry, I'll stay close. I'll stay on your spirit team. And she has stayed very close indeed. But she said she might come back in a couple years, and she'll let me know if that is the case. And I am super excited if and when that transpires. But she thanked me, and we had some beautiful heart-to-heart communication that was beyond words. I'm tearing up just thinking about how much love was exchanged. And she continued her speed run to the afterlife. And I actually did call the Angel of Mercy vet again and was like, can you come and put my cat down? She stopped eating. She's 14. She is definitely dying of grief. And we made an appointment for, like 3.5 days after Moo, which was crazy. But Q didn't even make it that long. She died like just 78 hours after her brother passed. We got to witness it. It's the first time I've ever seen an animal or human leave their body behind, and actually be present for it. And Jeremy and Charlie and I all held space when we knew the time had come. And it's interesting because she picked the exact same spot that Moo picked. So they passed away on this giant, fluffy gray beanbag, of course, with some towels and pads under them in case bodily processes happened. And her death was quite hilarious, actually. It was so sad. I was wondering, should my 8-year-old really be watching this? But she wanted to, and we're like, farm kids would see animals die. It's part of life. It's probably good for her to see. We can support her through anything that's traumatic. And it was really quite interesting. She had a lot of death spasms. And there's times where my husband thought she was already gone. And so he went to take her pulse, and then she'd convulse and he would fly back and be terrified, and we'd all be laughing hysterically. And it was a sacred time. We knew when her soul had left her body, and her body was still had an animated life force, but not her entire soul energy. And yeah, we grieved her, and we grieved Moo. And again, it cracked all of our hearts open, and it brought us closer together as a family. It was an experience that was so divine because I was finally in a place in my life where I let the tears flow and I let the emotions go, and I didn't hold back, and I didn't try to be less sad. I didn't try to be okay. There was times where the grieving would just overtake me. But at the same time, I had this witness and presence about me of feeling like everything was going to be okay. And obviously, I mean, I'm talking to my cats in their light body form. I know death is not the end. And we have had so many times where we've been together before. So it was really potent and really special. And it gave me so many gifts. My goodness, I am still receiving all of them. The cats did not want to come to the new house. They knew at 14, moving is a lot for cats because cats actually energetically grid the spaces that they're in, and it takes a lot of energy. And actually, as my cats were dying, they were going and I called it haunting the house, but they were going and sitting in places and spaces that they never sat in, and they would just stare. And I could feel the energy work that they were doing, and they were just clearing some things up and out for us. It was really fascinating and a beautiful process to witness it, even though it was incredibly sad. Now, afterwards, again, right into winter solstice and Christmas and visiting family, and my soul energy was still gone. So I felt like I couldn't really dive into my work, but I was in that weird period of time where it's between Christmas and New Year, just hanging out with my family and being. And then again, my soul energy returned right before New Year's Eve. And I was starting to integrate everything, starting to plan for the new year. Things were starting to come into crystal focus again, instead of feeling like everything was so unclear. Like it felt when my half of my soul energy almost was not with me, it was like I only had the energy for the basics, right? For taking care of my house, taking care of my kids, taking care of myself. Barely. I definitely did not exercise as much as I did. And then when my normal amount of soul energy came back, I was just like, wow, no wonder that was so hard. I could liken it to just being exhausted, but it was more than that. It wasn't just exhaustion. It wasn't just grief. It was literally not having all of me present. And there was nothing that I could have done to pull all of me back to me. Like I can do that multidimensionally now if I just have some aspects that are off doing things and I want to bring my potency back. But that was a pre-planned excursion to go and get all this information that I had left for myself, this multidimensional information. In places like, again, I can, now that I'm able to unpack the information, I can go, okay, I was in Aldebaran, I was in the Pleiades, I was in Andromeda Galaxy, as well as Andromeda Constellation. There was some other places that I went. There was also dimensions of crystal cities here on Earth that I was visiting, and some in Hollow Earth. Like my multidimensional self was getting around and going to pick up the little pieces that I had left for me now to bring back for my 42nd year to really amplify the work that I am doing here on this planet. So there was just so much that was not new. Again, it was like these bits of depth, this confidence and clarity and power that was restored and returned to me because I've grown into the person who can hold it now. This is the thing. I had it before, but I didn't have it inside of me, but I always knew it was part of me. But I literally needed to expand my capacity to hold more of this energy. And I've been doing that through this life, through the healing, through the clearing, through the purification, through the expansion practices that I have done, through my ability to hold responsibly the power that I already had, that I already wielded. And then I made room for more. And again, this was pre-planned, but not by my conscious self, right? This is by highest self, and all lot of what we do in this life is kind of preordained, right? Predestined. There are choice points that we have along the way, but a lot of things are just, already set out for you. When we moved, I got to encounter another one of those. And I mentioned that I had a lot of new ideas come in when I had my first night in the house. I was laying down in my bed in my new room that oddly is painted the exact same color as my room in my old house. I suddenly was connected to a green crystal inside the crystal caverns of Gaia instantly. And as I connected to this, I downloaded so much for the next iteration of my business. Things I had been trying to figure out through my mind for 6 or 7 months that I had been puzzling with, wrestling with, and all of a sudden it was there down to what some of the website pieces are going to look like. I just had access to them when I was in the right place. And obviously, the right place was where I am right now, in this new space. My grid work was complete at the old place, and I am also very excited because I am a grid worker and grid weaver. It's one of the reasons I don't own a house is because I am following where I am told to go, and it's much easier to just up and move if you are renting. The universe shows me where I need to go. In my last place in space, I was on a very major intersection where thousands of people drove by almost every day. And I was also by a park where hundreds of people would walk daily, and probably thousands over the course of the week. And I was also really close to a water space where it was like a water tower where people from rural areas would come and they would get their water. And as soon as I moved to that place, I knew that I was the caretaker of this particular intersection, and I needed to encode it with all of these different upgrading light codes that people would drive through, and they would receive them if their hearts were open and they were available. So none of this is pushing or forcing it on people, but it was adding in this coding to this place so people could receive it. And that was really done through COVID. I was also right by a giant traffic circle. And so I could energetically tune into what different levels of my etheric self were doing, coding the intersection, coding the water space, coding the traffic circle, doing work in the park, and really anchoring in a bunch of codes both for people and the land itself. But yeah, the grid work was complete. At that old place, I also had a level 3 grid line moving through just the corner of my house. Level 3s are much less common than level 1s and 2s, and this level 3 grid space just went through my bedroom, nowhere else. And oftentimes when I was laying in my bed, I would feel the energetic currents rippling through me, and it felt like I was on the ocean or on a waterbed, and it was very intense. A lot of activity there, a ton of activity. And it was exhausting sometimes. And I knew that I was supposed to be there. When we moved to this new place, it felt so much like a respite from all of that, because the closest level 3 grid line is just about a half block south of me. And so I don't have to live on it, but I get to walk it often, almost every day. I get to walk along that grid line and do what I need to do there and do the pieces for this neighborhood that I need to be weaving for. And it is so much more restful. I have gotten the best frickin' sleeps because we're actually not in such a major road. We're still close to a road, but closer than I would have thought would be comfortable, but this house has better triple pane windows and insulation, and so you can't hear it. You can see a little bit of traffic, but oh my gosh, it is nothing like the old space. And there's so much peace that has come with this. Now, we did know we were moving back in November, but it took us a little bit of time to find the right space. We thought we were going to get a house in a particular neighborhood, but then we said we did not want it until January. And we could have said, okay, we'll take it in December. That'll be fine. But with what happened with the cats, I am so grateful we didn't, because it would have been absolute chaos had we been trying to move at that time. We lost that house, but then found this other neighborhood and I looked at a house that was right on that grid line, 1.5 block south from where I am. And we lost out on that one as well. But this one here, it was perfect. The landlords had just recently moved to around where we were living in this other little town. And they've never rented to anyone before, so they don't have the rental trauma that some of my previous landlords have had, where they've had really bad tenants and, are very cautious about everything. These guys are super chill, super cool. It's a beautiful space. And of course, pets were available. Actually, it was really funny because I had been communicating about this house with the gentleman, with the man, and went and viewed it with his wife. And he sent me a message because he was out of town after the viewing saying, "Hey, my wife really liked you. We do have a few more people looking at the house tomorrow, but she never likes strangers. So that's amazing." He was just basically giving me the heads up. And I was like, oh, well, we have this house for sure in the bag. And then he messaged me back like an hour later saying, "You know what? She just told me to cancel the next viewers. Like, we're just going to give the house to you." And I was like, oh, see, this is when you know you're in the right place. There is the ease and the flow and things just line up and they land and they work. And it's like, because this is where I'm supposed to be. It's also got a greenhouse. So I do not have a green thumb. And also I am going to be learning and practicing and expanding my capacity. I've only grown a garden once, and that was when my child was 3, and it was hard to garden with a 3-year-old, let me tell you. But I'm going to call in the spirits of my grandparents and really learn. Now, I want to tell you with this very personal update about the death and rebirth portal that I have been through, about the new cats. So my husband told me before our old kitties passed that he was going to need at least a year before we could adopt new cats. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It'll suck for me, but I honor you. That's totally fine, whatever you need, because he was very attached to them. But then after they passed, he was like, I don't want to wait a year. Maybe we'll get some in April around our daughter's birthday. And I was like, okay, April, that's totally fine. We can do that. We'll get settled. It'll be spring. It'll be perfect. But we would talk and we'd be like, I miss having cats in the house. I miss having cats in the house. Okay, well, we have to wait till we move. We have to wait till we move. And we had maybe gotten the new house, I think, but we hadn't moved out of the old one yet because we did have some overlap, which is the best way to do it if you're able to, though it is expensive to pay rent in 2 places, or, like however you're overlapping that. It was so worth it for just the amount that we had to move over and all of that. But one night I started feeling these cats absolutely just calling me on the internet. And I was like, oh my gosh, our kitties, we wanted to get another bonded pair. Like, they're calling me. They're like, hey, we're ready to be adopted. And I was like, I have to start looking. And I had been ignoring it and like actively not looking online for a few days before. And then I just got so strong. They were like, I could hear them crying out in the ethers going like, you have to find us. You have to find us. So I started looking online at the different animals around my city that were available for adoption. And the second I laid eyes on these 2 brothers, I was like, oh, them. I remember them. There they are. One's named Lapis, as in lapis lazuli, and the other one was named Felix. They're 6-month-old kittens, and they were being fostered a little bit out of town by some beautiful people. And these cats, the second I looked at them online, they started connecting to me energetically. They started to visit, and they visited with my kitties. So it is interesting having gifts of psychic abilities, clairvoyance, and mediumship, because it does sound absolutely wild. But these cats were coming and being like, hey, remember us? We have work to do together. Lapis showed me exactly where he wanted to be in my office in the new house. And actually, as I'm recording this, he is sitting there right now. And this was before we'd even moved in. And Felix told me the person who named me almost got it right, but it's actually helix, like DNA. And I was like, of course it is. And we did take some time actually contacting the foster parents. There was some weird email back and forth, and we were like dying to get these kitties, or at least to make sure that they were ours, because everybody fell in love with them from the stories and the photos of their personalities. And my daughter was connecting to them energetically, and so was my husband. And we were like, okay, these are obviously our soul kitties. But we had a few touch and go moments where, it was just taking a while to get back and forth. And there was a weird email thing where I had forwarded something to Jeremy, and I actually replied to him instead of to the woman who was fostering them, and then didn't hear back. And I was checking every day. And then finally I looked and I was like, oh no, I didn't actually send the email to her. But fortunately, they were still available. And we went to go and meet and greet them. And we thought we might take them that day. But Lapis was a scaredy cat. Oh my goodness. He was a scaredy cat of Charlie, and he felt the energy shift, and he is by nature a more timid kitty. So the foster mom decided it would be best and safest, because they were an hour out of town, for her to drive them to us. But the next time she could do that was about a week later. But we felt good with that because the transition, we wanted to be very, as safe and sacred as possible for them. And when they arrived, one of them, Helix, was totally cool. Lapis was a little more timid. He was kind of scared. So we just had them in my office for the evening, and they would stay in this one space as long as they needed to get the vibe, to get the smells, to get comfortable with the sounds. But then, by early morning, Lapis was trying to get out of the office and was ready to explore. Let me tell you, he took a few hours to get comfortable in the house, and then he jumped up on my bed and he started purring and started nuzzling me, and he was just like, I'm your best friend. And honestly, he and Helix both want to be worn like a scarf right over your heart, and they just purr and purr and purr, and they are aggressive with the cuddles. Like, they are needy. They push their head into you. They want to sleep draped over your head, on your pillow, on top of you. And I didn't really know exactly what they were, but they definitely have some Siamese in them who are apparently much more like cat dogs. But they come with this beautiful new earth coating and ancient coating, and they are already hanging out and holding space as I'm doing energy work with clients, as I am guiding and facilitating meditations, and they are sharing so much love with me and with my family. And they are very much new earth kitties with a different template, a different temperament, of course, but receiving this level of love from cats who are, typically a little more standoffish. I'll tell you, my heart has grown so many sizes. They are so fun, these teenage boys, but I'm like, what have I done? We just moved and I need to get back to work, and I have these distracting kittens to play with and to hold and to snuggle. And also, it is the best thing that I have ever done. I loved my old kitties so much, but these new cats, like, obviously they can't replace the old ones, but they certainly filled a cat-sized hole in our family's hearts. And I know when we put our heads together, it feels like cosmic unlocking is happening. There is such a deep exchange of energy. They are very astral kitties. They just have so much cosmic knowledge that I am excited to decode. I feel like as they grow into their adult selves, so much more is going to come forward as well, because just like humans, kids can access a lot, but they don't have the full wisdom capacities. Their neural pathways aren't able to really process everything. So as they grow, more and more is going to come through. So stay tuned for the adventures of these beautiful cosmic cats and the work that we're going to do together for DNA activations and all kinds of new earth activities, Lapis and Helix. They are going to continue to level me up, both in terms of my capacity to hold love and to nurture and to really show up with my heart wide open. But also, it feels like it is going to be potent for the work that I'm here to do. Plus, I get to have even more fun because, elder kitties, 14-year-old kitties, they do not play as much as fresh new kitties do. And it's injecting all of this new energy into my life. I've also been speaking with many, many light workers, grid weavers, spiritual teachers, healers, and they too have just been through the ringer lately with a massive death and rebirth portal. So I've been sharing my story so you can pull through whatever keys and codes are supportive for you in this tale. And also so you know that you're not alone. You're not going crazy if you feel like you went away and then you came back, a new version of you. Whether you got new info or deepening of the embodiment of the energy that you're here to hold, it's all perfect. It's all divine. And that rebirth energy is something that I am really good at holding my clients through. I've been through it so many times, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, being reborn again and again and again. So if you are seeking support and you want to be held with so much divine love and support for the process, I do offer mentorship where we can make sure that you are held. I call myself an ascension doula sometimes. And yes, I am a birth doula, and many of the tools actually apply to offer comfort through difficult transitions and support and love and empowerment, because it is not easy to be going through these massive evolutionary experiences. And I certainly could not have done it on my own. I had friends and my husband and my family holding me close. I also had my luminous team, but I had invested recently in a few coaches and containers who were able to hold me through the process and remind me that I was doing what I needed to do, and that resting and being and allowing and flowing and surrendering were indeed the right way to go. It was not easy, but I moved through this transition with so much more grace and ease than the 5 or 6 other times I've been through upgrades like this, because I could relax into it. Because I've been there before and I had the faith and trust in myself and the divine to navigate it. And I never lost faith in that, not even for a moment. So if you need someone to support you when you are leveling up your business and your beingness, you can reach out to me to hear about the options to be held and nurtured and supported, getting your ass kicked when it's required so you don't stay stuck in your shit, and to help integrate all of the codes and decode what is coming through, because that is also a specialty of mine, to be able to decode what is actually coming through with those electromagnetic packages that your soul is returning with, to be able to pull out of your field the potentials, the possibilities, and the magic, so that you can bring it into now, so that you can actually embody that new identity, whether it is new or it's just an expansion of what it is that you've been doing. There is a method to the process. There is an alchemical process that we can follow. And if you are open to having fun with it, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier. And at the same time, it will be more fun. So it's a win-win. So I am honoring you through your transitions, through your evolutions, and celebrating all the new that's coming through, honoring and grieving with you the old that's being released, and reminding you that this is not the only time we'll be doing this, because as we're co-creating this new experience here on the planet, we are going to go through multiple purges. We've already been through lots, tons of letting go and releasing and making space for the new. And it is going to continue to up in intensity. So come into my world to be reminded of how not crazy you are, of how it's going to be okay. If you would like some support in energetically, tap into my free frequency upgrade academy. That will give you some of the energetic tools to be able to follow your intuition and feel the divine support that's needed. And in the Abundant as Fuck Lightworker membership, we do have more specific tools to help you rewire your superconscious and subconscious to live in the frequency of abundance, which is where the quantum infinite of all possibilities lies. And we can offer you the support you need for the transitions in there, as well as in the higher, closer proximity space that is just opening, the Luminous Mastermind. I wanted to share that this is also something that has come through, a place for much more intimate support inside a sacred container where we can release those pieces that are stuck in your field, in your body, in your beingness, that are keeping you from fully living, fully expressed in the radiant, joyful, exuberant divine energy and light that you are, being shiny AF, sharing your light and your magic with the world in bigger ways. Because I've walked this journey of learning how to share my magic with the world unapologetically, unfiltered, raw, truthful, and not hiding who I am. I've created so many processes and shortcuts to hold you through that, to navigate that expansion energy. And this mastermind is for the spiritual entrepreneur that is going through their next level up, that rebirth energy, so that they can make more impact, make more money in the business, because your willingness to be seen, your safety and comfort with that visibility and authenticity is what's going to magnetize in your soulmate clients so they can see you, feel you, and find you. And it's going to really ripple out the impact that you're going to have into the world. So that is a application only process to make sure that it's a good fit. But we are offering founders pricing right now. And it is a sacred space where you will be seen and held for your infinitely evolving magic, for your business and your beingness, for your cosmic soul magic to be brought down to earth in grounded, practical ways that you can actually use. Like, we take the magical and we make it super practical. You can show up with your whole self, your multidimensional awareness, your work with angels, aliens, ascended masters, and all of that is welcome. And also, we want to make sure that you are grounding it into tangible pieces that are going to support you in the world moving forward with your business. I can speak now to the crazy wild stuff that goes on energetically with me without holding back, as you have just witnessed in this podcast. But it took me a while to get there. It took me a while to feel comfortable and safe to share myself so candidly. And I know how to help you create that safety. I know how to help you stop hiding your magic and show up in your fullness and your realness and your authenticity in a way that will repel people and make them think you're crazy, which is hard to deal with. But in order to be magnetic to your soulmate clients and friends and family, you need to remember magnets have two poles, and what is absolutely repulsive and repellent to the people that are not for you is going to be magnetic and resonant to the people that are for you. And so in the mastermind, we're going to be working with all of these different pieces, bringing you into this unified flow of your divinity and your humanity at the same time. And again, having so much more fun with it. So if you have resonated with the stories in this episode and you would like more support, make sure you tap into the show notes. You can send me a message on any of the social platforms. You can share this episode out with friends who are going through a crazy death rebirth period who might also need to hear it. And I will just finish by saying, like, I know that this particular rebirth portal, I mean, it was nothing like some of the ones that I've been through in the past and that other people have, because sometimes, you know, I mean, losing my cats was just as intense as losing other dear ones in your life. But I know I had some privilege in that because I was divinely held and guided. And sometimes things involve much more practical challenges on the health wise or with divorce, death of family members, those are just as intense, probably more so. I do have experience with those portals as well. So even though this one did not sound so dramatic, I do know that regardless of what is falling away, regardless of what we are leaving behind, if we so choose, it is creating space for new energy to flow in that is even more aligned. So I am holding space for you, rooting for you, and sending you so much love.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and share this out to people that need to hear it. Tag us on social media. You can find us at The Luminous Evolution on Instagram. And keep the conversation going by joining my free sacred community, Luminous Evolution, on Facebook, and get a taste of my favorite tools and techniques inside my free Frequency Upgrade Academy. You can also join me inside my membership, mastermind, certification programs, or private coaching to be deeply supported on your evolutionary journey. Make sure to check out the links in the show notes, and cheers to your infinite, luminous evolution.